Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is, when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. I said. So, some years ago, I was sitting with a Ghanaian teacher, a spiritual teacher. He was Ewe, and so the Ewe are practitioners of the Vodun tradition. And Vodun and Orisha are mirror traditions. They're identical in very many ways, but there are a lot of distinctions and differences between the two that have to be, accounted for in order for you to respect the integrity of each. Anyway, I think that he and I were talking about some of the intricacies of the two traditions, right, and the ways they overlap and the way they diverge. But somewhere in the process, he gave me this really great lesson in the form of an analogy. And the analogy was like this, imagine a drop of water. A drop of water can fall into the ocean, and imagine that this drop of water has the option to retain its unique identity. This drop of water has the capacity to insulate itself and create some kind of a membrane around itself that would allow this drop of water to be somehow impenetrable, right? And it can float in the ocean without relinquishing its own autonomy as such. Then imagine that also, by the same token, this drop of water has the capacity to dissolve. This drop of water has the capacity to relinquish its own limitations and thereby become absorbed and become one with the entire ocean. Okay? If it retains its individuality, it can float about, in the ocean and kind of go wherever the ocean current takes it. Or if it surrenders its own uniqueness and its own individuality, then it is at one with the expanse of the ocean's existence and awareness. So it can touch from California to Chile to, Samoa, all at once. However, in order to have that expansive existence, the single drop of water has to be willing to surrender its own, limitations as it has known itself. So this is a great lesson. It's a fantastic lesson because what it is, by my estimation, it's highlighting for us the need for us to be willing to sacrifice everything that we know about ourselves in favor of everything that we can become. Okay? That requires surrender. That requires bringing down your guard. That requires being able to accept, right? Being able to say yes, giving up the need to question, to challenge, to refute, to rebut, just giving that up and letting it be okay to become one with the wisdom of all, or the greater wisdom, to become one with the greater spirit, the wisdom that is enveloping you, the spirit that is enveloping you, right? And so I find this often in my capacity as a teacher and as a priest, where sometimes I have a student, I have a client who wants, maybe at the simplest level, they want a divination, but they want to dictate what the divination says. They want a divination, but they don't want to accept what Ifa is telling them, right? And Ifa says that this is what's on the horizon for you, and what needs to happen. Okay, and the person immediately goes into rejection. They go into rebuttal. They go into refusal. They go into, denial, because that isn't what they want. Well, that's what needs to happen. You need to dissolve your resistance in order for you to grow. That's the way it is. The same thing happens in the capacity of the teacher. This is why the lesson is so important, from my perspective. I've seen the same thing with people who are learning information and content. I've seen people ask questions. They come into a classroom setting or a lecture or workshop setting. They're asking questions. They're getting answers. The answers, however, either are different from what they had expected, or the answers are, expand and amplify their perspective to something bigger than what they had understood. And the person is challenged by this bigger perspective, this broader understanding, and they, same thing. They want to challenge, they want to rebut, they want to reject. Okay, but you can't grow without change. You can't improve without change, and you can't change without surrendering where you are right now. You have to surrender your knowledge and understanding, your habit, your perspective. You got to surrender that. You got to sacrifice that up for a greater, broader understanding. And that can be frightening for a lot of different reasons, and we will hesitate to embrace new information and new ideas and new practices, especially when they're being introduced. It only becomes problematic when, for example, you have said that you are committed to this tradition, right? But at every turn, when you are growing and learning and being exposed to new information and new practices within the tradition, you're constantly resisting. You're constantly pushing back. You're constantly refusing to accept. It's always a battle to get you to take on the next level of understanding. At some point, you've got to just say, you know what, I don't know how this pans out, but I have gone through enough changes in the tradition to know and accept that even though I'm uncomfortable right now, Ifa has worked out something that is really going to benefit me. I accept. Likewise, you have your teacher, you have your Oluwo. Hey, you know what? Once you said that you're going to be my teacher, you're going to be my Oluwo, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to trust you. I don't have to be constantly battling back and forth in order to learn the lesson, to adopt the practice, right? I don't have to be quietly, secretly, always scrutinizing what you say, looking for this opportunity to find a discrepancy and say, hey, you know what? I know you told me this, but then I went and I found out this over here, and I got some more. You don't have to do all that. Once you have accepted that you're going to take instruction from this person, let it be okay. Right? Let it be okay. So for us as Americans, that can be really challenging. We are very attached to our individuality. We're very attached to our freedom to be eclectic and unique. We're really attached to this idea that somehow, I am the exception. We love that idea. We're addicted to that idea, as a matter of fact. All of those things might apply to everybody, but I have a special, unique way about doing things. And you know what I mean? Like, we really love that idea. And it makes us innovative and creative and, a lot of other great things, but it also stands in the way of our just fundamental maturity and us being able to accept some of the inevitability of what it means to be what we want to be, right? See, it's one thing to go through the motions, to show up at this place and do this ritual. It's one thing to look the part. I wear these clothes, I wear these beads, I use this name, I bear this title. That's one thing. But you can be doing all of that, but still be like that drop of water that refuses to relinquish its isolation, or relinquish its individuality. Right? You can not do all those rituals. You cannot bear all those titles. You cannot look that part. Right? But you can accept the wisdom. You can accept the spirit. You can relinquish your limitations. Right? This is the story of the butterfly. The caterpillar starts off crawling on the ground, and then at a certain stage of its development, it will wrap itself up into a cocoon. And once it's inside that cocoon, the caterpillar will actually dissolve and become liquid. It becomes liquid, and then it reforms itself. It reshapes itself into a butterfly. And then it emerges from the cocoon with wings, and then it can fly. Right? So it's a great analogy for learning, growth, transformation. If you really want to go from being a caterpillar to being a butterfly, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything that you know. You got to be able to sacrifice, what you consider normal, crawling on the ground and eating leaves. Like, you got to be willing to sacrifice your whole identity in favor of something far greater. You can't have both. You cannot do both at the same time. You can't do one while you're secretly disbelieving that the other is going to happen. You're not going to become a butterfly if you're in the cocoon and you secretly believe it's not going to happen. Why? Because you're going to do something like put a hole in the cocoon. Right? I'm going to put a little escape hatch right here in the cocoon. Then you liquefy, you leak all out. And then, So it's really important that you not only do the things and look the part, but you also are willing to be whatever is necessary in order for you to experience growth, learning, and transformation. All right? So that's the lesson of the day, and it's a lesson for the leaders. I'm looking for people who are really, really ready to do what it takes to transform the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, I want you to find out how Obafemi Origuwa and the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you to live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you're destined to serve. Visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.